Picture this. You're scrolling through your bank account at 11 p.m. and you see it. That same number staring back at you. Not enough to feel safe. Not enough to feel free. Just enough to get by. And somewhere in the back of your head, a thought creeps in. What if money just showed up? What if you woke up every single month to an extra $1,000 and you didn't have to trade a single hour of your life for it? That's the dream, right? Dividend income. Money that pays you just for owning something. No boss, no clock in, no explaining yourself to anyone. And if you've spent any time on finance YouTube, you've probably seen the thumbnails. I make $1,000 a month doing nothing. Passive income changed my life. Big smiles, nice cars, the whole thing. Here's the thing though. Nobody actually tells you the real number. The number you'd need sitting in your account today to generate that $1,000 every single month like clockwork. And look, when I actually sat down and ran the math for the first time, I was not prepared for what I found. It genuinely made me a little uncomfortable. So today we're going to walk through it together. No fluff, no fake hype, just the real math. And then I'm going to show you how people actually get there in real life, because it's not the way most videos tell you. Let's start with the number everybody's afraid to say out loud. The average dividend-paying stock in the S&P 500 yields somewhere around 1.3 to 1.5% a year right now. Now, if you want something more dividend-focused, a solid dividend index fund, you're usually looking at something like 3 to 4%. Real dividend aristocrats, the boring, reliable ones, tend to land in that range too. So let's do the math using a realistic 4% yield, because that's achievable without taking on crazy risk. $1,000 a month is $12,000 a year. If your money is earning 4% annually in dividends, you need your invested amount to be $12,000 divided by 0.04. That's $300,000. Let that sit for a second. $300,000 just sitting there, invested, to generate $1,000 a month. And if you want a safer, more conservative yield, say 3%, now you're looking at $400,000. Yeah. Not exactly the just buy this one stock energy you see in those thumbnails. Here's where most people shut the video off. They hear 300 grand and they think, well, that's impossible. I'll never have that kind of money, so what's the point? And that reaction, honestly, that's the exact reason most people never build wealth. Because they treat the end number like it's supposed to appear overnight, instead of understanding how it's actually built. So let's talk about how it's actually built, because this is where it gets interesting. Think of dividend investing like planting a very slow-growing tree. In year one, you plant a seed, you water it, and basically nothing happens. It just sits there. Looks pathetic, honestly. Most people give up right here because there's no visible reward. But underground, roots are forming. That's your shares slowly accumulating. And here's the part nobody shows you. Around year 7, 8, 9, that tree starts growing so fast it looks like it happened overnight. That's compounding. That's dividend reinvestment quietly multiplying on itself while you weren't watching. Let's actually see what that looks like with real numbers. Say you can't drop $300,000 in one shot, because, who can? Instead, you invest $500 a month into a dividend growth portfolio averaging around 8% total return, with dividends reinvested along the way. After 10 years, you're sitting around $90,000. Doesn't feel close to $300,000 yet. I know. But here's the part that gets people. After 20 years, that same $500 a month has grown to roughly $290,000. And by year 23, 24, you've crossed that $300,000 mark, and now your dividends alone are throwing off close to $1,000 a month without you adding another dollar. 20-some years. I know that's not the answer anybody wants to hear at 11 p.m. scrolling their bank account. But here's the thing. The version of you 20 years from now is going to exist whether you start or not. The only question is whether that version of you has $1,000 a month showing up automatically, or whether they're still starting from zero. Now let's bust a myth real quick, because this one drives me a little crazy. A lot of people think high dividend yield equals good investment. Like, ooh, this stock pays 9%. That's amazing. Sign me up. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Extremely high yields are usually a red flag, not a reward. Companies paying out unsustainably high dividends are often doing it because the stock price crashed, which mathematically inflates the yield, or because they're borrowing money just to keep paying shareholders to look stable. It's called a yield trap, and it has wrecked more portfolios than almost anything else in dividend investing. The company looks generous right up until the dividend gets slashed. The stock price collapses with it, and you're left holding a fraction of what you started with. So what actually works? Companies with a long track record of not just paying dividends, but increasing them year after year through recessions, through crashes, through everything. These are sometimes called dividend aristocrats, companies that have raised their payout for 25 plus consecutive years. Think steady, boring, reliable businesses. Not exciting, not going to trend on social media. But they're the ones actually built to hand you that $1,000 a month reliably, decade after decade. Now here's something that might genuinely shock you. According to research from Hartford Funds, dividends have contributed roughly 40% of the S&P 500's total return since 1930. 40%. Almost half of the stock market's entire historical return didn't come from stock prices going up. It came from companies literally handing cash back to their owners. And most people investing right now have no idea that number even exists, because nobody's showing them that side of the chart. Let's make this even more real. Think about a company like a big consumer staples brand, the kind that sells stuff you probably have in your kitchen right now. Boring, unglamorous, never trending on social media. Say it yields around 3% today, but it's raised its dividend every single year for over 3 decades, through the dot-com crash, through 2008, through 2020, all of it. If you'd put $50,000 into that kind of company 20 years ago and reinvested every payout, that original 3% yield on your initial investment could now be functioning closer to 9 or even 10%, because the dividend itself grew while your cost basis stayed frozen in the past. That's called yield on cost, and it's one of the most undertaught concepts in investing. Your yield doesn't stay fixed. If you pick the right kind of company, your yield grows around you while you just sit there. Okay, so let's get practical. How do you actually start closing that gap between where you are and that $300,000 number? First, stop thinking about it as one giant number you need immediately. Break it into what you can control today, which is your monthly contribution. Even starting with $100 a month into a dividend growth fund, reinvesting every payout automatically, starts the compounding clock. And the clock matters more than the amount, especially early on. Second, prioritize dividend growth over dividend yield. I know I already said this, but it deserves repeating because it's the single biggest mistake beginners make. A company yielding 2% today, but raising its dividends 10% every year will absolutely crush a company yielding 8% that never raises its payout, given enough time. The growth compounds. The flat yield doesn't. Third, reinvest everything automatically without touching it. This is called a DRIP, a dividend reinvestment plan, and it is honestly the closest thing to a cheat code that exists in investing. Every dividend buys you more shares, which then generate their own dividends, which buy more shares. It's the snowball effect, and most brokerages let you turn this on with one click and just forget about it. And fourth, and this is the one people hate hearing, increase your contribution every time your income increases. Get a raise, bump your investment by even half of it. Get a bonus, throw a chunk of it in. This is how people who don't come from money still end up crossing that $300,000 line in 15 or 18 years instead of 25. And if you're wondering where to actually put the money, you don't need to handpick 20 individual companies and pray you guessed right. Most people starting out are better off with a dividend-focused index fund, or ETF, something that holds a basket of dividend growers all at once. It spreads out the risk, so one bad company slashing its dividend doesn't wreck your whole plan. As you learn more and get more comfortable, you can start layering in individual companies you actually understand and believe in. But the starting point doesn't need to be complicated. It needs to be consistent. Here's the truth nobody wants to sit with. Most people will watch a video like this, feel a little spark of motivation, and then do absolutely nothing with it. They'll close the app, scroll to something else, and in 5 years, they'll be exactly where they are right now, except 5 years older and 5 years further from that $1,000 a month. And that's the actual tragedy here. Not that the number is $300,000. It's that most people never even start moving toward it. So if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. You don't need $300,000 today. You need a system that's pointed at $300,000 starting this week. Open the account. Set the automatic transfer. Turn on dividend reinvestment. Let time do what it's genuinely built to do. Because the version of you sitting there in 15 or 20 years, checking their account at 11 p.m., is either going to see that extra $1,000 show up automatically, or they're going to be watching this exact same video again, wondering why they never started. Don't be that person. Start today. If this actually helped you understand where you stand with dividend investing, hit subscribe, because we've got a lot more of these breakdowns coming. We're walking through the real math nobody else shows you, one video at a time. And if you're serious about hitting that first $1,000 a month, check out the video right on your screen. It walks you through exactly how to pick your first dividend fund. I'll see you in the next one.